it is not Monday, but I could not help myself but jump in. As my younger sister shared earlier today, happy best day of the year for me. I do love dressing up. I love costumes. I brought you some like fun, silly hats and all of the things. And I wanted to jump in to think about, okay, it's here, it's upon us. I'm sure school has been crazy for you and all of your students and everybody else as it's Halloween and on a Friday. So, oh my goodness, I don't know about your kids, but mine were like super queued up as they went off to school, and I like crossed my fingers and I was like, oh my goodness, be nice to your teachers as you go forward. But this inevitably brings up the like, let's make a graph of our Halloween candy, which is wonderful because we're using real world examples to get kids practicing their data skills. But it then also brings up the question of like, and how can we go a little bit farther with having our students look at their Halloween candy and some data and different pieces like that? So just want to shout out the like, good old, we're making a, here, let me see if I can make this even bigger. Wait, no, wrong screen. We're making a bar chart. I'll even go one more. We're making a bar chart and we have our different types of candy. Usually we sort of set them up where it's the type. So we've got all 4 of our crunches showing up here. Let me scroll in even further. Oh yeah, there, that's nice and big. Excellent. So this is often how I see lots of graphs of Halloween candy coming out day after, week after, things like that. And this is great, especially for our younger students, as they are just getting a sense of how do we create a bar chart by categories, type of candy, and of counts or of frequency across those different categories. So fantastic. But we have lots of other options. And here are just a couple of them where we could make a bar chart of the types of candies received along here. So now we're adjusting it slightly in terms of, sorry, not actually a bar chart. This could be sort of, this is a frequency. So this has just one piece of candy in it and 2 pieces, things like that. The number of each are frequencies. We could make a pie chart where we have everything with chocolate here in the big part of the pie. And then this tiny little wedge here are the fruit-based candies. And yes, this is legitimately data that came home from my kid a couple years ago during Halloween. Or, sorry, here we're going number of pieces per pack and the amount of chocolate in it. So what have I done here? Well, we've showcased a variety of different kinds of visualizations that our students can look at. And almost more importantly, we have created an opportunity for our students to look at the same data in different ways. So when we're all making this frequency bar chart, first off, we're all making the same thing and we're all pointing towards one different way to visualize it, one set of patterns that we are looking at. And given that this is an early elementary way of looking at our data, we need to be grounded in our early elementary way of talking about the patterns in the data. Or maybe I should say, we're somewhat limited in the types of patterns that we can talk about, find, explore in this whole data set when we only look at the data in this visualization, right? We can talk about which candy type had more or less across the whole. Whereas, as it relates to candy type, as it relates to what came through in my basket as they went out and collected data. Whereas there's different kinds of conversations and different kinds of patterns that we can see across these different visualizations. So here in our frequency, our count bar chart, we have we had the most Hershey's of all the different brands, types of candy. But our pie chart, same pieces of candy, just reorganized. Our pie chart gives us a way to talk about, well, actually the majority of our candy haul that my son had was chocolate as opposed to fruit-based. And we can get that from this frequency bar chart, but it's harder to pull out that pattern. It doesn't pop as quickly as it would say in looking at the pie chart of the composition of all the candy he collected, the majority of the candy was chocolate based. Or when we're looking up here at our scatter plot, we can look at and see, well, there doesn't actually seem to be a relationship between the amount of chocolate, even though we collected most chocolate, most of the pieces of candy that he collected were chocolate based. There doesn't actually seem to be a relationship between the amount of chocolate in said piece of candy and the number of pieces in the pack. So if my child was a chocoholic and was trying to maximize the most number of pieces of chocolate that he pulled in, well, I mean, there's some that it increases, but also there are few number of pieces in a pack, but with a lot of chocolate, Tootsie Rolls, or high number of pieces in a pack. These were these like little Twizzler bites with very little chocolate, right? So we have these other things going on. It's not just a positive or direct relationship. We can have that conversation of those patterns very differently based on the fact that we're looking at the data across different kinds of visualizations. So what patterns they're seeing, how our students are engaging with the data is related to how we're looking at, how we're visualizing the data. And then within that, how do we help them build out that understanding of pattern recognition? Okay, so this is where I'm going to give my shout out. There's a lot going on next week with the election. Our oldest turns 13 on Monday. I'm going to have a teenager in the house. Oh my goodness, that's so crazy. But on Tuesday, we're doing our November strategy share out. So please come join us Tuesday, November 4th. Yes, after the daylight savings shift. For those of us that do daylight savings, please note that this is standard time. We're moving off of daylight savings time. So, and we're going to be talking about what's the pattern, teaching students to see patterns in their data. So just like we were talking about with the Halloween candy, we can see different patterns based on which way we're visualizing the data. And also just how do we at the fundamental level, like help our students build out their pattern recognition better. So with that, I want to share, I hope you have a spooktacular or wonderful or sugar-filled Halloween, whichever it is that you are looking for, or that you just get away from the chaos, if that's also what you're hoping for this Halloween and over the weekend. How fantastic. All of our students get to be home with their families as they're going through their sugar highs, and hopefully they'll be ready to go come Monday. Until Monday, have fun. Take what you need, take the time, keep exploring, and stay curious, and I'll see you next week.